U.S.-Israel relationship is often described as unbreakable, but some might say it's starting to show some serious cracks. For more on that, let's turn to Daniel Levy, president of the U.S. Middle East Project and a former peace negotiator in Israel. He joins us live from London. Daniel, Anthony Blinken has repeatedly raised concerns about the humanitarian concerns, the staggering civilian deaths in Gaza that's now approaching 28,000, and yet the U.S. continues to provide weapons to Israel. Biden, in fact, bypassed Congress twice to send more than $250 million worth of lethal arms to Israel. So my question to you is, we are getting mixed messages here. From one side, Anthony Blinken says what's happening is heartbreaking. From another side, U.S. continues to provide weapons to Israel. Where do we go from here, and what is the message from the United States?
It's a message of weakness, isn't it, Asieh? Because you set up that equation perfectly. Maybe you stole what I was going to say. This is indeed quite confusing to the outside observer. If you don't agree with this, why are you arming it? Why are you vetoing meaningful resolutions at the United Nations Security Council? There seems there will be another debate next week. Either the resolution will be watered down to meaninglessness again, or the US will veto. Why are you not taking what the International Court of Justice ruled in terms of provisional measures? And you know what? You didn't agree with the case, okay, but now the highest court in the world has made a ruling. Why didn't you use that? Why are you not deploying the massive leverage that you have with Israel? Is it domestic politics, which, by the way, is working out very badly for President Biden in this re-election year? Is it weakness that you don't think the Israelis will actually do what you say, even if you deploy leverage, which I would question? I think it would take time, but I think that would make the difference. Is it that you don't actually care? Is it that this is really how America behaves with its allies, and to hell with what happens to the Palestinians? Because the reality on the ground, which we have seen, and now moving on to Rafah, these people who keep getting told, move to the next place, safe place, bombed, killed every day, a mass civilian death event. Rafah, on the border of Egypt, as we were just reminded, is this going to be the moment where there is a push which would further destabilize the region to ethnically cleanse Gaza of Palestinians? And I think the US either has to summon the political will to deploy its leverage, or it will continue to bleed whatever remaining credibility it has over this file. And to throw one other thing into the mix, you are still endangering a broader regional conflagration, because the longer Gaza goes on, the worse Gaza gets, the more likely we are to continue to see a dangerous escalation in the region.
So where do we go from here? I mean, if Israel is not going to listen to what the White House or the Biden administration is telling them, is there anyone, the Israelis, Benjamin Netanyahu, that he's going to listen to?
Well, I think that kind of gets to the crux of it, doesn't it? Because if it's just words, if it's just the president, when he manages to find the correct words, using rhetorical frustration, but when he sends his Secretary of State, he doesn't send him with any sticks in that toolbox. If America is not willing to say, okay, arms done, UN Security Council, the resolution will pass this week. The ICJ, we're going to lean in and we're going to say, you have to be in compliance. We're going to go back and check where our weapons are being used.
But Daniel, has the United States ever done that when it comes to Israel? Honest question here.
Yeah, no, you have to go back in history. You are absolutely right, Asieh. You have to go back to the war in the 1970s, the so-called October War, Yom Kippur War, when after that, when Israel was dragging its feet in the post-war arrangements, Kissinger turned around and said, we're going to reevaluate the relationship. That led to a real hullabaloo inside Israel. In 91, then President Bush Sr. turns around and says, we're not going to give you the loan guarantees. That leads to a significant change in the internal political framing and discourse inside Israel. But it's been a long time. And the reality ever since has been that Israel is guaranteed impunity. There's no accountability. And what that has led us is to an ever more extreme Israel. What the administration is trying to do this time around is to say, you know what, we've got an amazing idea. Why don't we bring Israel a bigger reward? And that's the whole Saudi normalization plan, right? They keep going back to Riyadh. They keep thinking, if we offer the Israelis relations with Saudi as part of an American pact with the Saudis, in fact, to try and pull the Saudis away from their geopolitical hedge, then surely Israel will say yes. And I think Netanyahu has said, no, if you throw Palestinian questions into that mix, I'm going to hold out. And so if the Americans use leverage and use the question where Netanyahu is most vulnerable, by focusing on the question of a prisoner release, a hostage release, an exchange, and a ceasefire, this is where you could see a real change. They will have to sustain a standoff with Israel in order to do so.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. I had a lot more questions for you as a former negotiator, but I hope we can leave that conversation for another time. Daniel Levy, thank you so much.